Good morning and welcome to the Upside of Downsizing. My name is Bill and we are here on day 2 of our Strawbale Toolshed build. And what we're going to do today is we're going to install the webbing that we cut in the previous episode that will be used to secure all of the courses of straw bales together. We'll be getting those fed underneath the first course of bales that you see behind me. And once that's complete, we'll then continue with the second and third course of bales. So let's get started. So in yesterday's episode you saw Yvonne and I cutting this strapping material, and what we're going to do now is go around the perimeter of the straw bale shed and we're going to feed the straps underneath the first course of bales using this baling needle. We initially were going to lay out the strapping before we put down the first course of bales, but decided that getting the bales in their proper position was more important, and then we could stand back and really decide where the optimal spot for this strapping material would be. When the next course gets applied, you want to make sure that you're getting as much meat of each course as possible. Now that we have all the straps underneath the bales, what we're doing is we're taking the strapping material and we're feeding it underneath the bale strings. We learned from our first build that if we don't do this, the strapping material has a tendency to want to pop out or stand away from the bale wall, and it makes our life a little more difficult when it comes to the first coat of mud. So by putting the strapping material under the string, it'll stay nice and tight to the bale wall and allow us to get the first coat of mud on a lot easier. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the webbing and I'm folding it so that it fits underneath this staple, and then I'm getting it as close to the bale as possible, and then I just have to angle it at like maybe a 20-degree angle so I can actually strike it with my hammer. Not going anywhere. Let's do one more. And then when we get done with the outside of the building, we'll go ahead on the inside and repeat this process on the straps on the inside. So again, I'm just going to fold it, put my staple in there, pull the webbing out of the way. Good to go. So what I'm doing here is fabricating staples out of 1/4-inch rebar. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, this Rockwell jaw horse is an incredible tool. So I'm going to cut the rebar, and then using a little cheater bar, I'll be staples into the proper size. And there's going to be 4 staples on each course of bales, and these will basically connect the 4 or pin the 4 corners together. Yvonne finished up the stapling of the strapping to the railroad ties, and I fabricated some staples that you see right here out of 1/4-inch rebar. And these staples will be used on every course, on every corner, to connect the 2 walls together. So what we'll do is we're going to just make sure that the bales are properly placed, and we will just pound this in with my new Thor hammer that I made yesterday. The one thing I did want to say was Oh yeah, the staples, they are 18 inches wide and the legs are 8 inches long. And Yvonne's coming over with the hammer. Come on, you want to try stapling one in? Driving one in? Start on this one. Come on.
Which side? Wood side? No, I mean all metal.
I would use the metal side. Look at that girl go. The Thor hammer. Okay, once it's in, it's in. Beautiful. All the straps are in, and as you can see, they're fed up through or underneath the bale strings, and the staples that I fabricated out of 1/4-inch rebar have all been driven into place, and those secure the corners from separating. So now we're going to get started with the next course of bales. So here we are beginning the second course of bales. The one thing to remember when building subsequent courses is to stagger your seams, very much like you'd see in a brick wall. It adds strength overall to the wall. You'll also notice that we have to occasionally switch out bales or move bales to different positions because each bale does have its own characteristic. In fact, if you notice that last one we just put up looks a little cupped, so we flipped it over so that the weight of the next bale will flatten it out. And we just continue on until this course is done. Here Yvonne is demonstrating the ratcheting technique for splitting a bale. And again, the webbing and the metal buckles are used in place of baling twine, and this little ratcheting tool can put a pretty good pressure on that strapping material.
Cool.
One more.
One more.
I guess the hardest part about the strapping material is figuring out how the buckle works. It's a little tricky to get that figured out, but there are plenty of YouTube videos out that show you how to do it. And this tool does feed it through, ratchets it tight, and when you've reached the desired tension, you just press down and it'll cut the strapping. So she's checking the tension, giving it a couple more, and booyah, cut. Perfect. Now that the last bales have been split, we are putting them in place. And here we run into a little frustration. So I'm going to explain what just happened. We measured this length as being 32 inches. We measured 32 inches when we split the bale, and then when we put the bale up here, the bale measured 36. It grew 4 inches. And the only thing we can think of is it grew 4 inches by decompression. When we cut the original baling twine, that it actually grew or expanded, even though our straps were tight. So what we found out is, instead of retying, we could do what you just saw us do, and it's basically pull out the straw from the side and then retighten the strap. So we're going to do the third course right now, but I think I'm going to talk Yvonne into making a little lunch break. You okay with that, Yvonne?
Yes.
Good.
Sure.
Okay, we're back from lunch. Stopping for lunch is not always a good idea. It just makes you tired. So we're going to get started with the third course. And watch, this is going to be a struggle. These bales weigh probably 60 to 70 pounds each. And the walls are getting higher, but here we go. As I mentioned in the last video, each bale seems to have its own size or individual size. None of them are completely uniform. So you'll see us walking around with the tape measure in our hand because we got smart and finally realized we got to find the right bale for the right position. The bales could vary as much as 4 inches in length, and that was something we really didn't expect. But I guess once you realize it, you can work with it. As we continue building, we came to realize that the corners are the most critical part of the build. When the corners are right, the wall will fill in properly. Here we are fixing up a small bale in the back and fitting in the last piece in the wall. Here I am cutting 1/4-inch rebar with an angle grinder, and what I'm doing is I'm making pins, and these pins will be used to secure all 3 courses of bales to each other. You'll notice in the background that Yvonne continues to stuff the gaps with loose straw. And this is important not only for the strength of the wall, but also for fire prevention or to make it fire retardant. What you don't want to have are air gaps in your straw bale walls. So we're getting to the end of the day 2 build, and what I'm doing is I'm driving in the last 2 or 3 1/4-inch pins that you saw me fabricate in the last clip. And I learned that it was easier to pound it in using the T-post pounder and then use the Thor hammer to drive it home. But I was certainly getting tired. It was a long day for both of us. As I'm pounding the pins in, Yvonne is adding support to the walls to make sure they stay properly positioned. As you can see, when you get to the end of a long day and you're getting tired, you do stupid things. It may be better just to stop and take a break or even just resume the work the next day. Guys, that's it for the end of day 2 of our Strawbale Toolshed build. We want to thank you for coming along on this journey, and if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment box below. Tomorrow is going to be a day where we have to get supplies. The next step in this build is going to be building the box beams. And the box beams are going to go along the top of these bales, all the way around the perimeter, and will get cinched together with the foundation railroad ties using those vertical straps that you saw us installing today. So once again, thank you very much. I'll do a quick walk around so you can see what it looks like. And for informational purposes, I'd say we worked about 5 hours today, and this is what we got done. But it was made, you know, we got as far as we could today, and that's about it. So anyways, thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.